So I feel very confident saying that Warhorde orcs are the strongest orcs in the world. Guys, I received the honor and the pleasure of being the second highest scorer at the World Team Championships of Warhammer 40,000. I was only behind Liam VSL by a small margin, and I got to talk crap to one of my teammates for not scoring the few points that we needed to get me to number one. But that's okay. Guys, we had an absolute blast. The World Team Championship was the hardest tournament in the world. I do think the World Team Championship is even harder than the WCW. And this was an absolute blast, and I'm extremely pleased with my performance. So what I wanted to do today is walk you through some of the matchups that I had and give you some of the ideas about how I utilize the orcs. But if you're not an orc player, please, this is still for you, because you have to understand why I was able to get the scores that I got and how I approached the matchups. Take this and absorb all of this information, and you will improve your play. Guys, I am Doc Crump. I'm a top 100 player for Warhammer 40K, and I was recently a member of Team Norway for the 4th year in a row as we competed at the World Team Championships of Warhammer. So buckle on in. We're going to learn a lot about Warhammer today. Quick introduction for the World Team Championships. If you don't care about teams, it doesn't matter. This is all still incredibly relevant for you. This is all just about hard playing Warhammer. What World Team Championship is, we had 46 different teams, different countries from around the world, which sent their own individual 8-man teams to represent their countries in an all-out battle. Now, the total event was won by Team USA this year, who crushed. France took second. France has won for the past 2 years. Then Spain, then Sweden, who has been in fourth for 4 years in a row. Those guys are incredible players. Germany, and so on and so forth. So, in the very first round of the first 3 rounds of the event, you're going to have what's called the pod phase. The pod phase are the matchups that we can actually play for. Now, for those of you who aren't super familiar with teams, one of the things that we have to do is we have to give predictions for how we think we're going to perform in each individual matchup so that we can get the best overall team score to try to win the round. So let me go and tell you what my army list was for the orcs and why this was the army list, because a lot of people were kind of scratching their heads when they were looking at my list, and they were kind of underestimating it, if I do say so. A lot of orcs that were at the event were playing freebooters with equatorial hordes. They were running, actually one of my favorite lists was bully boys with equatorial hordes and 60 boys. Honestly, that was one of my favorite lists that I saw. There were not as many war hordes, although the war hordes did show up, and I think they performed exceptionally well. So let me talk to you about my list, how I was able to score so highly, and then I'll take you through some of the matchups. All right, so this is me. We were running the War Tide, and yes, my list theme song was "Break Stuff" by Limp Bizkit. That's a really important detail. If you're not listening to Limp Bizkit before the event, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Anyway, very similar list to what I recently took to one of my singles GTs that I won, but with a few slight tweaks. So we took, of course, Gaz with the Pain Boy, Follow Me Lads for +2 to move, and the 20 Boys. This is a critical unit, and it is one of those units that people just fear. So one of the things that I find so often when I'm playing with this unit is I do not actually ever have to use it. I could just have it be on the board, and because of its threat range, because it can move up to 16 inches, then be +2 to charge. If they ended up killing any models, I'll resurrect a model and give myself a bonus 3.5 inches of movement from the resurrection. This is one of those units that I just have on the board, and its presence forces my opponents to play so cagey that it gives me a massive advantage. So even if this unit doesn't hit and murderize things, which it is just about the killiest thing in the game, it still completely controls the board. Okay, so the next thing that we got the Beast Boss leading Beast Nagas. Now, I don't really recall seeing many of these units at the event. Now, this is a mainstay for Warhorde over the course of the last edition, and I found it to be just so dang good for breaking through the trauma that is our monsters and vehicles, which was one of the things that orcs really struggle with in a lot of situations. So I love the Beast Boss. They get the full reels to hit, anti-monster vehicle 4-up dev on the Beast Boss. We run Zodgrod Wartslaga with 20 Gretchen, no Runt Herds. The reason why there's no Runt Herds is because of points. I'm 2,000 points on the dot, and if I took the Runt Herds, it would have been 2010, so no Runt Herds. This unit's job is so much just to frustrate your opponent. One of the funniest things in the world is when this unit of 20 Gretchen, Zodgrod giving them a 9-inch scout move, Zodgrod giving them -1 to be wounded, +1 to hit, and +1 to wound. This squad all sits inside a terrain piece. Your opponent shoots at it with a Defiler. Now he's -1 to ballistic skill because of cover. Now he's -1 to wound due to the innate ability of Zodgrod leading Gretchen. And that one Defiler shooting into a bunch of T2, no armor save, 1 wound models kills about 9 to 10 models. and your opponent's sitting there scratching his head, screaming about how he just got diced. But the reality is, the math basically says that's about what should happen. And it just scams people. One of the things I like to do when I build lists is I build lists to scam people. I want invulnerable saves. I want field no pains. I want multi-wounds. I want modifiers. These are the things I like to do when I build lists. So Zograd's unit was practically basically there just to force my opponent to either overcommit if they're smart or undercommit if they are not. Then we took a beast boss on Squigosaur with a cut and butt brutal enhancement. This gave the unit this gave the unit fallback, shoot, and charge, and he was leading 8 Squighog boys. This unit's job effectively is the unit that I would send out onto the battlefield outside of the wall. This unit in Warhorde, where I have -1 to be wounded on it, is a brick house, and the amount of profiles that just bounce off of it is kind of astonishing. T7, -1 to be wounded, 6 models with 3 wounds each and a 5 up feel no pain, 2 models with 4 wounds and a 5 up feel no pain. It is just a brutal unit to try to get through, and it creates a crazy amount of board control for me because now I get to determine where my opponent has to stand because he knows what units can and can't do anything against this one. Then I took a solo boss Snickrot, who was basically my action monkey, and was my go get my plunder, go get my behind enemy lines, or go do my screening where I need. Mazrog Scragbad solo. This guy, oh my goodness gracious, he is one of the more efficient data sheets in the entire game. Not because I ever expect him to do anything, but I expect my opponent to have to deal with him. He's got the 4-up invulnerable save, T8. I could, of course, use -1 to be wounded on him. He's got a 5-up feel no pain. Makes him a scam artist. So if your opponent really puts like big anti-tank shooting into him, they're liable just to get scammed based off of the 4-up invulnerable save. Then his melee is 6 attacks, anti-monster vehicle 4-up at damage 4 against monsters, damage 3 against everyone else, AP 1. And then he finally has 3 extra attacks. That's going to be damage 4 flat or damage 5 with devastating wounds against monsters and vehicles. Plus 2 damage if it's against Titanic, so it goes up to damage 6, which is hilarious. So Mazrog's job, effectively, was to terrify my opponent into committing it to him. I never really care if Mazrog pops off. I basically take him on a flank and I run him up the board and I let my opponent either deal with him or not deal with him. At which point, if they don't deal with him, he's just going to go do naughty things. And if they do deal with him, he'll die, but it takes the pressure off of the rest of my army. Then we have Wazdaka Gutsmech, who at the beginning of the edition I thought might honestly not be as good as everyone claimed. And I was wrong. Wazdaka Gutsmech, utterly incredible model. This guy's got loan up. He gets to move 20 inches, shoot and charge. He's just a beautiful, beautiful model, and he crushes everything. This is the guy I would almost never utilize him early game. I would utilize him to go like assassinate individual like flanking units or deal with like his more lightly armored skirmishers, and making sure that I utilize his loan up to keep him safe so that late game he is just doing terrible things to my opponent that they're not expecting. A single naked squad of boys. These guys are there to hold an objective and then do some screening. 1 solo truck, basically there just to deliver my beast nagas. Double Big Mech Docker rigs and a naked squad aggressor to hold my home field. Now, the Big Mech Docker rigs, I think, are the most broken things about orcs. Broken is probably the wrong word. They're just a little bit too cheap. I actually don't think orcs are broken right now. They're definitely better than other armies. Chaos Demons is probably the strongest army. You could argue EC is right up there as well. And orcs, those are probably your top 3. I don't think any of the armies are broken. They're obviously like a step above some of the other armies, and they do need like to get knocked down a little bit. And yeah, the new orc codex isn't helping with that. I'm looking at the profiles. Oh my goodness. I won't reveal leaks because I don't believe in leaks on YouTube, so I won't do that. But yeah, it's looking very, very awesome. Then the Big Mech Docker rigs here. These guys, their shooting is just supreme. Basically, it allows me to play a real shooting phase, which means my opponents, when they're playing against orcs, they're like, oh crap, you just killed my 5-man marine squad in shooting. It's like, well, yes, sir, I did, because you were a silly bear and you gave me the shooting. I actually had one Big Mech Docker rig kill like 4 custodian wardens between a shooting phase and an Overwatch, which dramatically flips matches. So anyway, this is the matchup. Let me kind of go through what some of these armies were, and we're gonna do some good stuff for you guys here today. Okay, so let's talk about team. Let's talk about all the matchups. We'll go to pairings. I'm going to pull up round number 1, where Team Norway played into Team Ireland. And I'm going to kind of show you the scores that we had here. So if you look down, I got paired into Peter Dunlea, who was a lovely lad. I actually took film of all of these, but the problem was that the audio kind of got corrupted. So I'm sorry, guys, the audio got corrupted. Is what it is. So I'll just have to narrate it. So he was running a very scary Leagues of Votann matchup. Now, I want to show something really, really quickly here. I got a 20 to a 0, and basically what that means is that it's a huge points disparity. I think the ultimate final score was actually like 27 to 100. The reason why the score got so crazy is because I didn't try to win the game. I never tried to win any of these games, or I never tried to get big scores in any of these games. Effectively, what I did is I put myself in a position, and I've got a stream game that I want you guys to watch that I'm going to link down below. Here, I'll talk about it in a moment. But that's going to demonstrate how to do this. I never tried to get big scores. Instead, what I did is I took board position, which allowed me to dictate where my opponent has to stand. After that, I was comfortable getting a moderate, small to medium win. Now, my opponents then try to win the game. They overextend, and that allows me to brutally punish them, then giving me the massive scores that you guys have been seeing. So that is actually what happened all the time. Now, in this matchup against Peter, this I was aided a little bit because I ended up going first. Had he gone first, he probably would have been able to make it a little bit closer. It probably would have been like maybe a 15-5. But that's the nature of the Votan matchup where they have all of their scouting units. They really want to put a lot of pressure on you early with all of their scouting units. But since I went first, he couldn't really scout forward because that would, cause for devastation. So that was a little bit of an aid there. Now, the next round is the one I'm going to talk a lot about, but I'm going to do a dedicated video specifically to it. But we'll go through it right now. This is when we played against Team England. And you can see I'm wearing a Team England jersey right now because those guys were freaking awesome human beings. And I loved my experience with them. So shout out to Captain Tony for just running a really, really solid crew. This was probably our proudest moment of the event. So Team Norway is what's called a Tier 3 team, meaning in the rankings, we are in the bottom half. There's 4 tiers of teams, Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier 4. So veteran team, they've been playing, but we're not ever expected to really make waves at the WTC, and this year we did. So we actually ended up in a draw with Team England, which was the first time in history that Team Norway has ever gotten a draw against a Tier 1 team. And this was actually a very, very, very cool experience. So the guys had a really, really great round. If we go down to me, I actually ended up with a 17-3 win into Christopher Langton. And just to give you guys like a little bit of perspective on how I expected this game to go, let me kind of show you what our matrix will look like. So for me, I'm the Orcs, and if we go over to my matrix into Chaos Demons is a 7. I actually don't expect to win this game. My expectations of the game is that I'm just going to grab some points, and I'm going to make sure that those Chaos Demons don't get a massive win against one of our other teammates. Now, I'm going to do a very in-depth deep dive into this match in particular because we have it streamed on the 6++ YouTube channel, and please go give those guys a shout out if you want to go watch it. I'll link the video in the description down below. You can go watch it, but I'll be doing another solo release video. We'll spend about 15 minutes analyzing that game specifically so I can really show you board positioning and things like that. I also did an interview with the 6++ crew, and we'll link that as well so you can kind of listen to me talk about how the army functions in that matchup as well. I think that's going to be very, very valuable for you. But anyway, this Chris Langton, he's a top 15 player. Incredible, incredible player. But one of the things that happened in this matchup is I was comfortable with maybe a slight loss or maybe a draw. Chris was not. Chris wanted a bigger win. And because of that, I forced him, using my board position, to get himself to overcommit in a certain area, which allowed me to grab a massive win. So it was a super fun matchup. I really, really enjoyed playing Chris. Lovely, lovely guy. He actually, once he saw how bad the game was going, he pivoted really, really quickly and made some incredibly intelligent decisions, which kept him from suffering a bigger loss and kept his team in the game. So great, great round there. The next round that we played, we ran into Team Hungary. And this was one of Hungary's first games ever. And I got to play Pongor Sandor, which was a lovely, lovely lad. Unfortunately, it's just this was probably the only matchup of the tournament where I had a big expectations. So if we look at the matrices here into Hungary, let me find it real fast. Hungary. Here we go. You will be able to see me, my Orcs, into Chaos Space Marines right here. I actually had this rated as a 14. So it's one of the more favorable matches that I had. I actually didn't have favorable matches this WTC, which is one of the reasons why I'm so proud of the game plan that we came up with. So I had a 14 matrix into this, and I was able to get through pretty quickly. He basically just decided that he was going to try to kill my squig hogs, which is the trap that I set for people. He put his defilers into the squig hogs and thought he was going to kill them. Didn't, because the squig hogs, on average, I only lose 1.5 to 2 squig hogs to an entire defiler's worth of shooting. T7, -1 to be wounded, benefit of cover, 5 up Field of Pain on top of 3 wounds and 2 models with 4 wounds and 5 up Field of Pain. It's kind of crazy and ludicrous just how poorly Defilers tend to perform into this unit. So that was what happened there. Now, the next round, we ended up against Team Belgium, which is a Tier 1 team. And the last time we played Team Belgium, instead of 73 points like we got here, because we got a loss by 2 points, unfortunately. It was very, very close to getting another draw against another Tier 1 team. The crazy thing here is that the last time we played Belgium, we had 11 points total as a team. So very proud of all my Team Norway guys. You guys crushed it. We have dramatically improved the skill, and it was really, really nice. So I actually ended up with an 11-9 win to Mr. Pierre. Pierre was a great player. I actually had a blast playing against him. Now, this was the only time I actually performed under Matrix over the course of the weekend, and let me kind of show you what that looks like. The reason why I say that this is relevant is because this is also the only time I ever really tried to push and win the game. And so if you look at our matrices here, against his CSM, I had a 14 matrix for my orcs. So I was expecting a decent 20 to 25-ish point win. Now, what happened here is I staged up against Mr. Pierre, and there's no way I could hide all of my squig hogs, so I had them exposed, but he was going to have, to cover, so he's going to have to ignore cover on me. I was -1 in wound. When I do these things, a Defiler should kill 2 hogs. 2.5 hogs when they spike high. He almost one-tapped the entire squad. I think there was 1 hog left alive, and because of that, that was too big a blow for me to then meet Matrix. Now, one important lesson from this that I want everyone who's watching this to take away from is, yes, his unit overperformed, and that really messed up my game plan. It almost made me get a draw, which would have been devastating to the team. But if I were to play this game again, would I expose the hogs in the exact same manner that I did? Absolutely. Just because a mathematical anomaly happens and say one of your units underperforms or your opponent overperforms into you should never change your game plan for the next game. Now, sadly, because of this 11, I ended up not getting first place, but that's okay. I got second, and we're happy. We're still very happy. And Pierre played an incredible game, and Team Belgium did end up winning the round. I'm also especially sad that this happened because had I performed at Matrix, we actually would have had another draw against Team Belgium. But you know what? The fact is that sometimes with the dice spiked up, I still got the win. I didn't suffer a devastating loss or anything. I would do the exact same decision again to expose my squig hogs in such a manner because -1 to be wounded screws Defilers up. And it just so happens that it didn't work out this time. That's okay. All right, next round. We go on into Team New Zealand. Now, I got to play Keir Smith. Keir is awesome. This was his first year at the WTC. He's a younger guy. He's been doing great work. The thing that happened to him, and I was speaking to some of the other to his captain David. By the way, if you guys don't know David Gaylord, most of my first time meeting him. He runs Fireside 40K podcast. Dude's awesome. Like super cool, man. So just give him a shout out anyway. And he was a really great captain because he was walking around. He was helping his teammates before the round started with ideas about how they should be playing the game. Now, Keir, unfortunately, was just a little too hesitant, and he gave me a little bit too much space to claim the board. Because of this, it allowed me to get such a big score. One of the things I'm not trying to call Keir out specifically. He's just a really good example of it. So on the board, he went first, and he kind of backed up. The reason why he did that is he was so scared of my Wa, and we were playing on Search and Destroy, so I do understand, because Search and Destroy, I can cross the entire no man's land in one turn and just charge everyone. But since he backed up, he made it so that I did not have to turn 1 Wa, and I could just grab the board positions and just start racking up the points, which is effectively what happened. I'm going to give you guys a lesson here, okay? So I'm a boxer. I fought mixed martial arts, boxer. I was Taekwondo. I've done jiu-jitsu for many years. If we're in the boxing ring and we're fighting, when your opponent is throwing punches at you and he starts tossing them your way, you have a lot of choices when you're defending from your opponent. You can slip to the side. You can take a punch, slip a punch, and throw another one. You can go forward to blunt his punches. So if he starts throwing, you can walk forward, but you halt the momentum of the punch so it doesn't really hurt anymore. There's a lot of choices you have. The one choice you can't make is you can't back up. Because in a boxing ring, if you back up, your opponent's just going to throw another punch. And that is a bad idea to eat another punch. So Warhammer is a very, very similar way. If you've got a force coming at you, you have a lot of choices. You can slip to the side. You can try to hit him first. You can run to the corners. There's lots of things that you can do, but the thing that you really can't do is you can't back up. If you just back up, your opponent doesn't even have to expose. He just sits on the points and scores. I mean, assuming disposition, obviously. It doesn't work. So you can never just back up. You always have to either meet your opponent, sidestep them. Those are the types of ways that we actually handle big pressure. You can't just back up, though. Now, Kier was a lovely lad, and he actually performed really well over the course of the event. So I think he's going to be just fine. I'm really looking forward to seeing him again next year. Okay, let's look at the next round, and this one was Switzerland. So now we played Switzerland, and this was such a good round. We missed the win by 1 point, so we ended up with another winning draw. So this one I was running into, man, I'm going to butcher his name, and I'm really sorry because he was a lovely man. Berenga. He was running the Freebooters and Mordaka army. So very strong army. I was actually very, very concerned about it. If you want to look at my matrix on this one, here we go. I was playing orcs into his orcs. I had an 11 matrix, so I had a very small win that I had predicted here. And yeah, so this is the Berengar. So he went with the Gazbrick, of course. He went with the Beast Boss and Squigosaur with 4 hogs. He went with Mozrog with 8 hogs. He went with the Big Mech with Shock Attack Gun, Get Spotter, Ignore Cover with his Tank Busters. Snickrot, Wazdaka, of course, Truck, Grotz, double Ludas with the increased rapid fire enhancement, and then Storm Boys. Now, the tale of this tape effectively was that I killed his Wazdaka and he didn't kill mine. So I gave him some bait. So in turn 1, I'll see if I can find a picture. In turn 1, what I did is I allowed him the opportunity to teleport his Wazdaka to kill my boss Snickrot, which would have been good for him because he kills my Snickrot, gets rid of my teleport, gets rid of my screen, but then I would be able to kill his Wazdaka because of the positioning that I had him in. Now, he deployed his Snickrot in such a way that I could go and kill his Snickrot with my Wazdaka if I go first, but due to where he had deployed his Snickrot, my Wazdaka would still be safe from the rest of his army. So, the key here was how that went in the first turn. I went first, I killed his Snickrot, I was still safe, and I had screened him so that he couldn't get to my Wazdaka, meaning I had total board control at that point. That's what happened in the mirror. When you're playing Orc's Mirror, Wazdaka is so profound that basically you can't afford to lose them. So I highly recommend people just protect him at all costs. And then lastly, we played against Team Greece. Team Greece was so close to getting our favorite opponents of the weekend. We loved basically everyone we played. We did vote for Team New Zealand. They were the coolest. Even though they stomped on us, they crushed us. We did vote for Team New Zealand to be our favorite opponents. Greece was going to be second. They were so close. They were awesome, lovely, lovely guys. And then I got to play against Nikos Daskalas. Nikos was an awesome man. He was running what a lot of people consider to be counters to the orcs. Now, he was running Lions of the Emperor with Silent Hunters, and he did have all of the Alaris Custodian squads, which is one of the scary things. There are a couple different philosophies on how to handle this as an Orcs player. For me, the thing that I like to do is I like to just accept the fact that these Alaris Custodians are going to shoot Gaz, and they're going to kill most of the unit. I just let him do it, and then I go into him. Because when he kills the most of Gaz's unit in the shooting, I only give him the ability to kill with 1 unit, because I screen the rest of the board. And then I make sure that that unit dies in the next turn. Because I'm utilizing the ability Hidden, sometimes I can combine it with Gone to Ground for even 12-inch detection range instead of the 15. I can very effectively screen the board in such a way that only one of these units gets to shoot, but then I get to murder that entire unit. Now, I think the big issue that happened in this matchup for Nikos is that Nikos decided that he was going to try to flip the game. So he kept all of his Terminators together because he wanted these really, really hard-hitting units to be able to cleave through me. The problem with that is that when you're like going, directly at Mike Tyson is going to break you down. And that's kind of what my Orcs army is. It trades blows and it punches freaking hard, man. So that was a big problem for Nikos. What I think he should have done instead is he should have been separating these Terminators just to play for points. Had he just been playing for points and trying to be in the corners, utilizing his recon disposition, he probably would have been scoring 7, maybe even 8 points. But since he decided to try to battle, it wasn't necessarily a bad choice. It was just the wrong choice because had something gone his way a little bit, he could have flipped it into a really big win, which would have been very profound for the round. So anyway, Nikos was a great guy. It was his first WTC. I think this was the only game he played where he was not on Matrix, which is astonishingly good for your first WTC. So I was really proud and pleased to get to play him. And Team Greece just played such a great round. They ended up edging us out for the win by like 2 points, which was really strong on them. So great move on those guys. They did just an incredible job here. So with that, that was the close of the WTC. So we did end up in second place overall, top orcs in the world, which hey man, it feels really good. What I want to do now is I'm going to do a second video, and I'm probably going to post it today as well, where I'm going to do a full breakdown of my stream game against Chris Langton of Team England. I think this is going to be one of the best ways that I can serve you guys to understand how I think of piloting orcs on the table. So I'll see you in that video. And hopefully we'll bring a ton of, well, it's not hopefully, we just will. We're just bringing a ton of value to you guys on how to actually position. So remember, if you are an orc player or if you're playing against orcs, it's not necessarily about trying to score tons of points. It's about putting your opponent in a position where they're forced to overextend, and then you will smash them. So, guys, with that, I'm going to close it. This was my WTC run of 2026, and I did get a really cool, like, totally real diamond encrusted ring, which shows best in faction. It was actually really sick, really sick. And shout out to all the event organizers for running such an amazing event, and all the incredible players who were total gentlemen and a blast to play against. So with that, I'm going to close out this video, and we'll be back with that full game review for you guys. Crump on. Bye-bye.